Andy Warhol supposedly once famously said that in the future, everybody will be famous for 15 minutes. Whether he first said it or not, the internet age seems to be making it a prescient statement. People do become famous for a hot minute, their 15 minutes of fame, then fade from our collective consciousness. The Bible is chock full of people who had their own 15 minutes of fame, then faded from the stage. When we think of the Bible, we mostly remember a few big names: Abraham, Sarah, Moses, David, Jesus, Peter, Paul, Mary. These and others we instantly think of when we think about characters in the Bible. But there are scores of others, both named and unnamed, who appear once or twice and then disappear. Some are heroes, others villains. Some play important roles in a story, others are just mentioned but have no impact on the stories in which they appear. This week and next, I want to explore some of these minor characters, especially those who played pivotal roles one way or another, but who are largely forgotten. Today, Jethro. No, not Jethro Pugh of Beverly Hillbillies fame. Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Monday, July 31st, 2023. We first meet Jethro early in the book of Exodus. In fact, almost everything we know about him comes from just 3 chapters in Exodus. Our first encounter with him begins in Exodus 2, when Moses has escaped from Egypt, where he had murdered an Egyptian for beating a Hebrew slave. After crossing the wilderness, Moses arrives in the land of Midian, where he chances upon the daughters of a man simply referred to as the priest of Midian. Moses rescues them from some shepherds who were threatening to drive them away from a watering hole. Jethro then welcomes Moses into his household and even gives him his daughter Zipporah in marriage. Moses then serves Jethro, keeping his flocks. But a funny thing happens to Moses. He encounters God in a burning bush. God charges Moses to return to Egypt to free God's people from their captivity. Moses goes to his father-in-law Jethro, who then releases Moses from his obligations in order that Moses can go about his quest. We lose touch with Jethro while Moses returns to Egypt. Then, after the Israelites escape Egypt, Moses and Jethro are reunited. Their reunion is a warm one, each asking after the other's welfare. Moses tells Jethro the story of how God acted to free the Israelites from slavery. Jethro responds with this important declaration. Jethro said, "Blessed be the Lord who has delivered you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, because he delivered the people from the Egyptians when they dealt arrogantly with them." And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. The chapter goes on to describe Jethro's sage advice to Moses, who tries to do everything himself, hearing every minor dispute that arises among the freed slaves. Jethro essentially instructs Moses to create lower-level authorities to hear minor cases, with only the most intractable cases making their way to Moses. And then with that, other than a few mentions here or there, Jethro mostly disappears. What intrigues me is that Jethro is already a priest when Moses shows up. What god or gods does he serve as priest? This is an intriguing question, but one which we ultimately cannot answer. Some scholars suggest the tantalizing possibility that he is already serving the God whom Moses encounters in the Midianite wilderness, but this is pure speculation. What is clear, though, is that he serves a particular function, which would have been to present sacrifices on behalf of his people to whatever god or gods they worshipped. And as the priest of several gods, His response to Moses' description of the Exodus makes perfect sense. He recognizes a powerful God when he encounters one. In Moses' story, told to someone who believed in a heaven crowded with gods, tells him that this particular God must be the most powerful God of all. Now I know, he says, that the Lord is greater than all gods, because he delivered the people from the Egyptians when they dealt arrogantly with them. Sometimes it takes an outsider to see what insiders cannot. Jethro probably did not know God, but as a priest, he knew a God when he saw one, so to speak. And in the God of the Israelites, he recognized that this God was greater than all other gods. If Jethro teaches us anything, it is that the God who freed the Israelite slaves is the greatest of all powers in heaven and on earth. Tomorrow, one of my favorite characters, Naaman the Aramean. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.